Hey guys, welcome back to the Turf Nutrition and Management Podcast. It's myself, Kevin Salters, with my co-host Douglas Gray, and today we have a guest, Vince Doell, out of Keepin It Green, which is located down in Jersey Shore, New Jersey. Welcome, Vince.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me today.
Awesome. Douglas, how are you doing?
Awesome.
Yeah?
Yep.
It's wind down week, right?
Yeah, probably, after Wednesday, it's wind down, for the year. It's, just tying up some loose ends and all that good stuff. Still got a couple people to see before the end of the year comes, but I'll always be available if somebody needs me.
Awesome. Well, Vince, we just wanted to sit down with you and give you a chat. We've been dodging you and you've been dodging us back and forth for all good reasons. And probably the biggest reason is that you are a new dad. Congratulations. And from what we've heard, it's just about 2 months old. So it's a young one.
Yes. Isabella. We go by Izzy. Just a little over 2 months. And like I said, we were saying before off air, I know, blessed. She's doing great. My wife, Jess, she's doing great. So it's been.
What's your wife's name again?
Jess.
Jess?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So, it's been a fun, wild 2 months so far.
I can imagine.
And more to come.
It goes by quick. That's for sure.
So your company is Keeping It Green Landscaping, correct?
Correct.
Is it lawn care or landscaping?
It's landscaping. It's, I guess when I started it, I had intentions of maybe, kind of doing a little bit more, but it's obviously, I'm more strictly just the lawn care and mosquito control, tick control, weed control, aeration seeding.
Turf management.
Yep, exactly. Again, that's, maybe a mistake, not mistake. I don't know on my end, but I mean, it's working. So I'm
not a worry at all.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
Why don't you just give a little background on how you started, why you started, and where you're currently at right now?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a backstory. I guess it was when I was, like I said, I was 16, 17 years old. I was working for a local company here in Lacey, Hart Landscaping. He, same thing, just did strictly, fertilizer applications. And we were meeting a couple local friends. We're working with him. I was working with him, just kind of like the crew leader for a little bit for a while. Did that till full time till about I was 20. That's where the trade, I began learning the trade. And from there, I always had a passion to be a police officer. So I did that at 18. I started as a special class officer in Seaside Heights. They sponsored me through the police academy. Went to the police academy, worked there for the season, as a class 2, it's a part-timer. You only have police powers on duty. And what happens is you get your certificates, become marketable, became marketable. And then I became full-time at the age of 20. I was still working with Hart, Mr. Hart. I call him Mr. Hart. He's actually a school teacher. Well, he's retired now, but I still call him Mr. Hart. Great guy. I love running into him now. But so Mr. Hart, he still kept me on, part-time to work some weekends and stuff. And then it just became a lot, the police job became a little demanding. And then, also trying to find a little bit of a balance too as well. So I parted ways with him. I think it was like 23, 24 years old, parted from there. Just kept with the police job and always been involved with doing side work for people. I was actually probably just right around then too. I actually wound up buying a trailer, an X-Mark lawnmower, a little walk behind, weed whacker, leaf blower. What a package deal off a local guy here in town for $5,000. I was cutting like 10 lawns up till I was, I want to say 30 years old, and just for my weekend money. And then I guess what was really happening was that, again, with the rotating schedule now, so I transferred from a police department where we work steady days. Now I work rotating days. And now working the rotating days, for instance, like last week, I was only off Wednesday, Thursday. It rains Wednesday, Thursday. I'm not cutting their grass till 10, 12 days after. And we all know nobody wants their grass cut 10, 12 days. They want it, if everyone could have it, they would want it on Friday, for that weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So it became difficult juggling that around. You know, and I've always been a hustler. I was always working, doing side jobs, and then it's going to sound a little odd, but my friends are they have a DJ company that do weddings and different events like that. I was working with them on the side, and honestly, it's just, you know, they say like you hang out with those people, you hang out with certain people, you become the fifth or the sixth, and you know, hanging out with them, it was just like watching them build this company, and they're probably like one of the number one DJ companies in this area, like Ocean, Monmouth County, and I just watching, you know, they just had, you know, I wouldn't say their financial freedom, but let's just say they didn't, you know, they didn't bat an eye. They were like, okay, we can get this, we can do that. And I was always seeking that. Like I always wanted to be like, hey, I want to go on vacations. I don't want to be down to my house. So, you know, going back and forth to it, I was like, what do I do? I bought a house young at 23 years old.
Nice.
Yeah. So I, you know, still in the current same house. So my vision with a house, and just after doing it, the lawn care with Mr. Hart, it was, who doesn't want to walk out to their yard with nice green grass. So that was my first thing with the house, getting the grass going. And I'd actually have people knocking on my door going, who does your lawn? And I'm like, me, myself. They're like, get out of here. And I'm like, yeah, you know, and I was just kind of, you know, just going off, tweaking a little bit of, at the time was Site One. Well, it's obviously Site One now, but I mean, it was Let's Go back in the day, John Deere. That was actually Hart Landscaping supplier. So I kind of knew Joe from there, got going, and just kept doing my own lawn. And then after a couple knocks at the door, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, this is what I want to do. And then I'm thinking ahead of retirement. You know, in New Jersey, we can retire after 25 years. 25 years will put me at 45 years old. I should say 45 years young, with a full pension and everything else like that. So, you know, I have in my blood to keep working. You know, it's just at 45, I'm not gonna be able to just sit around. You know, especially now with, you know, having Izzy here now. So, and looking to have another too. So, you know, want to just keep it going. And now, if I'm in my 5th season with the business, like again, so I started the business. First year, I ended the season with 53 accounts. Wound up starting off with 19. Luckily, a lot of police officers, they trust other police officers really well. So I kind of built the clientele going through there. You know, I literally, just the way New Jersey was doing the test, Doug, I'm sure you remember, the test was given on certain dates, not like now. You can go take the test 2-3 in the morning at your own leisure. So, you know, with the way the schedules lined up and everything like that, I wound up literally getting my license like, I think like a month and a half before I got going out the door in March back in 19. And, you know, I was like, kind of like promising these people like, yeah, no, I'm going to do it. And I'm like, those scores, I was actually in Puerto Rico with my family, and I'm like, I passed. And then I'm in business. So I'm like rushing around, getting everything, all my license, I do just got everything all together in time.
You can do it on, you can do it online now.
Yeah. So
no kidding.
I haven't taken a test because you know, obviously I just keep my credits, you know, all in good standing, of course. But from what I understand, you can just do it right off Rutgers, right off the website.
Wow, I did not know that.
As long as you have to have the camera. So that's like the Proctor, however, you know, whatever they call. And yeah, you can do the test 2-3 in the morning, and go from there.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. Make it definitely a little easier, that's for sure.
Connecticut has changed to that too, is online. It used to be in person, now it's online.
So I remember back in the day, I mean, yeah, you had to like look to see where the next test was. And, you know, I think I took my core up in like Hunterdon County, and my category tests like down in Ocean County, or up in Ocean County, I should say, because when I wanted to do them, they just didn't have the test down in this area. So yeah, that's definitely nice. Definitely nice that way if you can do it online.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, that pretty much, like I said, the first year closed it up with like 53 accounts. By the time I got done with, I mean, I didn't have a solid count, but I mean, I was up well over 100 by 2. And then it wasn't really keeping count on year 3, 4. Right now, like I said, I'm at for lawns at between it alters. It goes back from like 180 to like 200.
Nice.
And then mosquito counts, I do about 80, 90. And then some of the houses that obviously have lawn care, obviously, they have double services with the, mosquito control. And they also do the upsells of the beds for, whether it be like Snapshot, Shore Guard, something like that. Or where I live, we have a lot of lagoon properties too. So weed control is huge. People that live on the water, they want to enjoy their boats. They want to be maintenance free. They don't want to spend 1 minute of, they could be retired, have the entire week to themselves. They don't want to even spend 2 hours even picking weeds. So
yeah. It's a big business down there.
Big, very, very big business to be on the lagoons and spraying houses.
Oh yeah.
You got, a couple $1 million homes on the water down here.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
so with your,
like I said, I'm sorry.
With your customer count, before we get any further, how comfortable are you with the limits that you have now and with your full-time career as a law enforcement?
It's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's very, I would say though, this year now, we'll get into, obviously CRM, huge savior. And luckily I found that early. I don't know. I think was it like lawnsite.com was the old like form back in the day. That's where I actually
Sounds
found
right.
my book.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I think it's lawnsite.com. So I got linked with that. Got going with that. It's difficult, I will say, Kevin. I'm definitely at my max. So I
how
service
do you pump the brakes?
What's that?
How do you pump the brakes? Sounds like you're offering great service. It's going to expand.
Yeah, so I definitely found it. There's long days, that's for sure. It's 7 a.m. and you're getting home at night sometimes, but just kind of finding the balance where my customers know that I'm a police officer. So what's kind of cool is like with the mosquito control, I run it once a month. So it just works for me better that every 21 days, like a lot of the companies do, it would be chaos for me.
Mm-hmm.
So when, we start up in April, so if I'm at your property, it's, the lawn treatment and the mosquito treatment. So it's, double service right then and there. So I try to do it as best as possible. Of course, sometimes I get a little off. But, what's cool with my customers, I tell them, listen, like the mosquito control, I may be a couple days early and I may be like 2 or 3 days, just after that 30-day mark, all depending on my police job goes through, and I haven't had a, callback for anything. Maybe 2 mosquito callbacks and then nobody complains about it. Honestly, being a police officer kind of like helps with the clients because they're like, okay, we can trust him. He's on our property. We know. And it's kind of like, thank you for taking that job. And then we're kind of like honored to have you servicing our yard too. So it works out really well.
Are you organic mosquito control or just a standard? Okay.
Yeah.
That seems to be the way most people are going in New Jersey is on the organic side.
Yeah. Obviously we know everything that's going on with New Jersey, like you spoke. Yeah.
Yep.
Banning obviously some products.
Yep.
New
York's right around the corner.
Yeah,
Literally.
Yeah. It is what it is, but overcome and adapt. And, and honestly, you're getting a lot more people that want, the organic side of stuff and everything else like that. So it works out well. But yeah, Kevin, it's interesting. Like I said, I can get it done. And this year, for some reason, like I don't remember really pulling the truck in after 5 any day, really. I'd love to be pulling back in at, 2:30, 3 o'clock. But
wouldn't we all?
Unfortunately, like I said, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but, the police job, it
takes precedent, right?
If I didn't have, yes, exactly. That's number one. And obviously will always be number one till I retire. But, if I didn't have that, I could probably work 8 to 12 Monday through Friday.
Be a beautiful thing.
Explain the rotating schedule a little bit more, just so we understand what availability you have.
Yeah. So my schedule, it's known as the Pittman schedule. It's 12 hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It goes on a 2-week rotation. So for instance, today is Monday. We'll start with today. So I'm off Monday, Tuesday. I'll work Wednesday, Thursday. Then I'm off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, next week, it's just the complete opposite.
Right.
I'm only off Wednesday, Thursday next week.
So you're working the holiday.
Yes. So I do have a half day. We had enough coverage where I can take a half a day. So I will get to, at least, not that she's going to know much about the holiday, but I'll still, be there for most of the first Christmas. So,
Good.
That's
So
a good
thing. With the pitman, is that basically does that work on like a total amount of hours per month compared to per week?
Yeah. So we work so we have it worked out. Ours is technically 84 hours because of how it is, but the town does compensate for that. We are a small 1 square mile town. I think we have 14 officers. I believe I can't even count. I think everyone's like, how many? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, you're a small town. I'm like, I know, but I think it's 14 guys.
Wow.
Yeah. So they most of the towns, when they do that, what they'll do is they'll do like they'll give 104 hours of time to take off throughout the year because you're technically working over the 2080 as a full-time employee. But before I got there, guys worked out in their contract that, hey, listen, like we'll forego the 8-hour day, but we want to get compensated for the extra time we're working. So it works out. I'm not to get that. Like I said, I mean, to be a police officer, I work 5 and 2, 5 on and 2 off. I have a couple of friends that work that schedule, and to work a midnight shift, they go in 11 at night till 7 in the morning, 5 and 2. I'm like, no.
So you're not doing overnights because of your seniority?
No. So it's just ours is wherever your responsibilities are, like for the needs, it's the needs of the police department. So the chief has the ultimate say of where people go. So I've been on day shift for the past 3-4 years now. Prior to that, I was on midnights, and I've done midnights almost my whole entire career. No, it's 13 years. I think it's at 13 years of midnights. So could always go back. Who knows? But
I'm sure sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not.
Exactly. I'll get a call for the overnight shift. For an overtime shift, and sometimes it's like it's just put it this way, human society is just used to, they like change every once in a while, where I'm like, oh, this is a nice change, but your body definitely, it hurts after a while because nothing worse. You got to be at your friend's barbecue at 12 or 2 in the afternoon, and you're only sleeping like 3 hours.
Yeah.
You want to go enjoy that day off, but
yeah, I can only imagine.
I signed up for it. I knew what I was getting into, so I wouldn't change it.
So you mentioned earlier, and we might as well dive right into it. You mentioned the word CRM, or the abbreviation of CRM. What did explain that path? You said, you started early, you were happy with that. And where are you in that?
Yeah. So like I said, it was, I believe it's Lawn Site. I would have to probably look that up, but I remember it was like a landscape forum page, and guys were just kind of what's the price for this, before like really learning the Facebook stuff. And this was going back years ago when I was actually looking, like when I was doing the grass cutting. So I went back onto that site. I'm like, oh, maybe they still have this site. And that's actually kind of where I learned how to get my license for, everything, obviously, for the pesticides. And then I saw somebody mention Yard Book, and I'm like, what is this? And then I happened to see there's like, it's free. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. It's free. But then I learned why it's free. If you do a card on file, they take an extra 1%. So I've been using that, honestly. So I incorporated that like mid-season of the first season. I was doing Square, I think, right? It was a Square you hooked up to the phone?
Yeah, Square.
That's how I was doing it. And I was taking checks, cash, and then it gets real quick. Who paid, who didn't pay. If you don't get home and mark it off, you're losing track. But got Yard Book probably halfway throughout the season of the first season. And, I do like it a lot. And I did upgrade to the next one where it integrates with QuickBooks. Now they're not taking the 1%, obviously, because I'm, once you hit that threshold of doing over $3,500 a month, it makes no sense to keeping them getting their 1%, pay for the
Right.
paid version, and the money goes in, more money goes into my pocket, of course.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I was listening to a podcast the other day. I don't know how people are still doing pen and paper. It's mind-boggling. Actually, I have a friend that we just talked to the other night. He's been landscaping business for years, and he wants to sit down and talk about, granted, I'm not like say, oh, you got to have yard book. I explained to him, I'm like, hey, listen, he's more of cutting, pavers. So I did mention, I was like, hey, I'm like, I got friends that are in jobber. It seems like jobber and yard book are kind of like the big ones for mowing guys and stuff like that around this area. So I was getting on, and he was like, oh, I got pen and paper, and then getting the checks underneath the mat, the grill, and I'm like, no, not happening.
Are you
Not
100%
today's
credit
world.
card?
Yeah, so I do have a couple clients, that will pay, a couple older folks, I do let them slide, like everyone else says, they get the slide. And then I will say, not that I lost control, but during the season gets a little busy, you get like a burst, and I'm like, oh my God, I just added 15, but I'll send them the link, but I'm like, I can put you on a list for tomorrow. That's how fast I can get to you. Like, we've fallen into the route. Perfect. I can get to you tomorrow. I try, like, as long as there's some time, if it's like next week where I'm like, I hit that button, I'm like, look, you're not scheduled till that card's on file. So I'll get like a bulk, like 10, 15 coming in like one day. I'm like, oh no. I got to get back onto that a little bit. So I would say 97% of my clients are card on file. Or
that I don't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, and then out of all my clients, I'd probably say about close to half probably pay up front for the season.
Your prepay option, which mine are getting ready to go out.
Yeah, they take advantage of that. And then actually this year, I learned actually at the conference, there's a thing, we were talking to a guy that actually kind of drew my ear we were talking about the Launchpreneur Academy before we went on air. Same business, same style. He says that for all his prepays, he like emails them a number, like a ticket number, and he does a raffle, closes off his prepays, and he raffles off a grill for the season. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So cool. I'm going to experiment with it and see what happens and give that a whirl. I mean, who doesn't want a free grill? You want to be on the grill checking out your nice green lawn?
What percentage do you think you are on prepay? Because I know each year my prepay has grown dramatically. And last year I was blown away with how many people prepaid. And
so I would say I'm probably about 50%.
I'm a little more than that. I was literally just going over the numbers. I'm like, holy cow, I'm shocked I was that high.
Yeah. I think with that, what's happening now is we're living in a society where people, granted with everything's obviously going on, we don't need to get into, how everything's so crazy expensive, but I think a lot more people are getting into the routine of, well, if I can save, I do a prepay of 7%. So if I can save 7%, I think people are just becoming more very aware of if I save $40 with Vince prepay, and then if I save, $100 by paying my cutter in advance, I'm saving all this money, and they're saving, say whether it be $1,000 for the year. I think people are just kind of, you hear more people talking about like the stock market, investing. I think more people are just like really knowing their numbers, even they're not in business.
That's 100% true. Yeah, that's 100% true.
Yeah.
Anytime you can save $1, obviously, if you can afford it, as long as we're comparing apples to apples and all that stuff, then so be it. It's I think we all do it. I mean, we have credit cards in our world that we use to get points for airline tickets or hotels or just cash back, whatever it might be. So, and I think it's with the instant world of swiping a card in today's world, it's easier for people just to say, oh, my bill's $1,000. Oops, swipe it, done.
Yep. It's over and done with, and just make my yard look pretty.
Yep, exactly.
That's it.
And the technology has come that way. Doug and I have been in this long enough where that wasn't even an option. Then it comes along, and then it just becomes that convenience factor that they're so kind of used to between the Amazon, their self bill, all that stuff is automatically attached to a credit card. That's kind of almost their new bank account, really. They use that as their financial planning, hopefully. Um,
Yeah.
they're not racking them up. But yeah, I agree. Once I started taking credit cards quite a few years ago, I saw a huge increase on the availability because it's painless in January to
It is.
swipe your card. It really,
It
really
is.
is.
And then we get the people who would knock well, you got to pay the percentage. And I'm like, well, I'd rather pay 2.9%. First off, it's incorporated in the price. But it's a tax write-off that a lot of people don't understand that.
Correct.
You get the form at the end of the year. And, I don't know, me, it's just, even with juggling both jobs, my wife, she's got 2 jobs, so I don't know. I just feel like you're buying your time back, like to sit out there, write invoices, do this. And I mean, I go on Yardbook, I click generate invoices for the day. I just wish they made a method on how to charge all the cards at once. So we would go from 8 minutes to 2 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you got to charge each card individually, but then you send all the bulk emails out. And like I said, on the average 30 stops a day, and to be done with invoicing and paid all within 10 minutes. I mean, why would you not do that?
So what's your average square footage? We're saying 30 stops a day. That's impressive. What's your lot size?
So I would say the average is between, say 7,000 square feet. I would say that's the average. And then I got a nice bulk of, say, 10,000. Like 10,000 would probably be like the next step up. And then I have maybe like 4 or 5 20,000 square footers.
So what's your method of applications for the turf? Mosquito, I'm sure, is a mister blower.
Yes, that's Mister. I use the permagreen, set that up for the spot treatments, use granular. Right now it just works for me. And then I know
to each his own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know it, some of the stuff, some of the stops I do push spread, because it's just faster. It's just so much easier. And then there's a couple where I have the hand one, and then just
do you really?
Spot treatment. Yeah, I'll have the hand one.
Interesting.
The Ryobi does pretty well.
Yeah.
Hit that with that, and then I'll take the I always have a backpack sprayer, and hit the weeds with that if have to. It's just to save some time. There's no reason to be pulling down the machine or anything else like that. And to go back to the spraying, it's, we have a very big company, that everyone sees their name. We all know probably who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But they're seen with a hose and a reel, and they're here for literally 3 seconds, and then they're just not happy with that company. And then it's like almost like ingrained in their head, well, if you're using a hose and reel, I fired that company that was using the hose and reel. It just for something in there, and I know, and that's where the education's got to come in.
Right. It's not true, but it's correct. I mean, people
image.
Yeah, the image. Yes. They've ruined that part of the industry, unfortunately, because there's great companies out there doing 100% liquid with a hose and reel, and
they do a phenomenal job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, Kevin, obviously I follow you now. Now we linked up, and then, I know you guys talked to, DTL and Stout. Come on, their lawns look amazing.
Yep. Right.
But so it's
in Jersey. You're running now that the imidacloprid's out there. Are you offering grub control in your program?
So we'll be speaking obviously with that.
This is a good one.
But yeah, so I'm definitely going to be running the Aceleprint. It hit me and Doug. Obviously, we talked about it. For me out here, one, so I do offer aeration and seeding. Not that I don't want to, but I want to eliminate the process of, I don't want to do a full repair of a lawn, taking it out and doing all that. So I want to stick to, what I call the premium aeration and seeding, the starter fertilizer, and stuff like that, where if you don't have those preventions, if God forbid any of those bugs come, grubs or something like that, to do a full repair, I'm averaging, say, anywhere from 10 to 15 aeration seedings a day. To drop that down to, say, 5 or 6,
Gotcha.
I don't want to do that. I'd rather pay for it. It's like insurance. Put that down, and hopefully Mother Nature cooperates, and it does its job.
Can we just have a decent year this year? Just one, just once.
I don't think
the winter isn't helping it.
Not with all this rain we just got.
Holy
rain,
moly.
and it was 60 degrees today. Well, earlier today. It was
Yeah,
60.
and then it dropped about 1 o'clock, man. It just started dropping. But yeah, it seems like Aceleprint is definitely going to be the choice of grub control here in New Jersey this year. Tetrino is definitely another product, but that's more spraying later in the year. Also a great contact product as well. It's a lot less expensive than Dilox is, but still haven't seen the federal registration approval for Durantis yet. So hopefully that happens, but we'll see. But that's not going to be on fertilizer for 2024. And then 2024 into 25, we'll see some new interesting things going to be coming. So
I'm sure there's a lot going on because of that. And, like you said, federally, they're looking to ban it federally. So,
well, not, I can't say that active ingredient name, not Aceleprint per se, but it's more the imidacloprid.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
Like New York is, I just got something today from the Long Island Golf Course Superintendents Association, and to fill out a thing to the governor to say, don't do it, because they need it, not just for turf, but for trees. It's a great, not to forget about turf, but forget about turf for a second. It's a great product for ornamentals as well. Spotted lanternfly, it's a great product for spotted lanternfly. And unfortunately, we're taking that tool away. And I have a feeling that it could get bad again. So I think we've had it under control the last couple of years. Now, granted, it could have been from Mother Nature and whatnot, but I just think that by taking it away, we're going to create other problems, and that's not a good thing. So it's just like the ban on contact fungicides, right? We ban contact fungicides and our disease problems get worse.
Yeah.
So
I figure. So you mentioned aeration. What percentage of your customers, or is that something that all your customers get, is an aeration and seeding? It sounds like when you're banging them out, it sounds like you've got a pretty good list of them.
Yeah. So I now, between last year and this year was my most, do about 130 of those myself.
Nice.
I take off from the police job. It's, those guys take off all, June, July, August, and then, September's still nice. September's beautiful here. It's local summer. Doug knows that. I mean,
yep.
Even though Doug's a little on the west side of New Jersey.
Still close enough to go to the beach when I want to.
Very true. Very true. So September, I take off, 3 weeks, and I just rock that out. And just.
Are you finding that more people want that service kind of as part of their base program?
Yeah. So to go back to that, I would say I do. So I'll get off jobs too, obviously with that too. Mm-hmm. I do put a thing out to my clients saying, hey, listen, sign up for your aeration and seeding before I put it out to the general public as well too. So I lock them in that. I've been teetering with the idea of just saying like, hey, listen, this is going to be a part of your service, and try and just make it like that. But it's
tough.
It's tough because then sometimes, with kids going back to school, and with the way everything's going now, I hate to use that as an excuse, but I mean, it's reality to do a $400 or $500, $600 aeration and seeding. It might be a lot for somebody to swallow for that month. So then I hear the idea: do I break that up into the 6 payments throughout the season? For the 6 visits. Do that kind of billing so that maybe more people do hop on to it. I don't know. It's still something I'm thinking about. I don't know. With that, but I'd say about 70% of my clients that are on the turf program do sign up for it. And then the rest are, just one-off jobs for people. I'm seeing it.
I was talking to one of my customers this morning on a visit this morning, and he was saying that all his accounts, they get carte blanche, whether it's disease control, seeding, fertilizer package, the whole 9 yards. And they either pay up front or they get billed in 10 equal payments throughout the year. And it seems to work out for him, and he doesn't really get any pushback. So, it's one guy that, it's also one of the guys that, he wants to shorten his intervals in the summer months because, the weather conditions that we have, he wants to be on the properties a little bit more often in that, say, May to September timeframe. So instead of going every 6 weeks, he's going every 30 days in that time frame. So, and it may not be that he's going to apply anything, it might just be a site visit, so to say. So, kind of like IPM in tree and shrub care, it's, you can charge a visit fee, and if you need to do something, you waive the visit fee and you charge accordingly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
people are definitely getting creative with the financing and the billing. I know I did amortization early on, and then when I changed to a seller, I literally sent out a cut sheet explaining why I'm changing to this, and your grub cost is going to be more, and the reasons why. And I had zero pushback, but then I went into per application pricing just to make sure that everything was up to par and people weren't skipping out after the grub control. Like, oh, see ya.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. Which, I didn't have any happen, but I've heard other people in my area that was a problem, because in Connecticut, we switched over to Celiprin 2017, started using it 17 or 18, no, 17. And it was unheard of. And it was quite a bit more than it is now, because it was such a one-off.
Yeah. So it's same thing to do. I do, 8 treatments in the 6 visits. That's how my program was designed.
Yep.
And I divided equal payments so that everybody knows, all right, Vince comes, it's $85. And they just know that it's the same price every time. So I don't do, some companies will do like round 1 and 2, and then you double bill them for that one round, So, it's been thought of to do it for the aeration and seeding. Because it would be kind of nice. It's like to build your money for the seed to, so you're in the green to buy the seed. And then I have another company, one of my good friends, actually in the police academy with him, same company, same type of company, up in Tom's River Coastal Fertilization. And, we were going back and forth, and this is the reason for the CRM, yard book. I like it. But what I did 2 years ago was a $75 deposit, just because how seed went skyrocket. And I didn't want people saying, oh, I want to do it, and then order my seed and then go, well, no, I don't want it now.
Yeah.
Back out. Yeah. So I made it was a $75 deposit, non-refundable if you drop. And, that would be applied to the total.
Do you have any pushback on that?
No, I didn't. Everyone was like, okay, no problem. What I will say though, it becomes a little bit of a nightmare, because you got to add the credit to their account. And when you're in a flow, you might miss something because you're so used to that routine, where this was my first season doing it, where so I did my aeration seeding. And then when I hit the winterizer, I was like, oh no, I'm like, Jacqueline, I forgot to add your $75 to the aeration seeding, and I charged your card that, but people are like, oh no, that's cool. Like, I found it. So I made sure, I really went through all that with a fine tooth comb. Right. And I did miss 3. So, but me missing 3 was the end of the world, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. But yard book's not really that great to be all right, for that reminder kind of thing. It's a little difficult. My buddies, Coastal has Jobber, and they use 50% down. That was their first time doing that. They did a deposit last year because they found out, we were talking, obviously, we work very well together. And I was telling him to do deposits, and he was like, really? I was like, yeah. I'm like, it's working. I'm like, why not though? You go get a paver patio, you're putting a deposit down, and they haven't done the work yet.
Yep.
So, and they're bringing material, but I'm bringing material and $30,000 worth of machines to your house to do this job. So, I think I don't think that's wrong, having a deposit down for that service whatsoever.
I don't think it's wrong at all.
I mean, think about it. You go and buy parts for your car at a dealership, and if they have to order them in, you either have to pay completely up front or a deposit just to get a brake rotor in. I mean, that's kind of been the way of the future since inventory isn't kept anymore in a lot of our suppliers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I integrated with MailChimp, so it's a big thing with communication. And actually today I signed
We saw.
I signed
with Jessica. Yep.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
I mean, she just came back so quick.
Yep, that's creative content by Jessica. I use her for route development. We use her for the podcast. You're using her now for you're doing the newsletter, correct?
Yes, going to start off with newsletters and go from there.
My customers love my newsletters. They absolutely love them. And I used to do them as an email, and just it was boring. And then she says, "Hey, let me show you what I can do with it." And then I'm like, "Oh, hold my beer. This is awesome."
Yeah. Well, I saw yours, and that's what turned me on to it. I'm like, I use MailChimp, but I'm like sitting there for a couple hours today because I'm like, I don't know if I like the way I did it. Then it's 2-3 hours tomorrow I do it, and I'm like, I put 6 hours into an email. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I just need to, for what she's charging,
normalize it or simplify it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying she's cheap. I'm not saying anything like that, but I'm like, it's fair price. And I'm like, you know what? It's one less thing off my plate. And I'm going to go with, what's his face? It's buying my time back.
Yep.
Right. And you have a little one now. So that time is very important.
Yeah. And then when I look at this too, it's like, it's getting that content out there. Like I said, yours, amazing. I love reading your, I zoom in on Instagram and I'm reading all your flyers. So, but in my eyes, this is how crazy I look at it too. It's like, if I send these out with all this information, and granted, I very rarely get service calls. It's great. I mean, we get a little of the fungus calls and stuff like that, but that's pretty much it. I mean, weeds, like I was telling Doug a couple weeks ago, I mean, for service calls for weeds last year, I think I might have gotten 3 or 4 service calls for weeds. And it was when the dandelions popped crazy in the beginning of the year, because everyone sees those, of course, because it's,
I wish there was like something you could put down in like late fall, so you didn't have that problem, but just isn't, unfortunately.
Yeah. So with having those newsletters, or you're putting out, like I put a couple out there, but having more and more out there, if that eliminates any type of email, text message, or a phone call, or anything, for a service call, that's more money in my pocket. I feel like, because I'm not on the phone with a client for an hour because I paid Jessica to send out this flyer.
Yep.
So now I have more time on my hands.
And Vince, what I found, and so I was doing it just in an email format, and sometimes I would be able and be successful to attach a picture to it. But her being able to attach pictures, a lot of the times the customers are self-identifying. So if they actually do call, because sometimes they'll see something and we'll be reporting something, and it's not detrimental for the lawn. It's just something that's happening seasonal with the turf. And then they get the correspondence showing the pictures of what it is. They're like, oh, ding. And I don't even get a phone call for it because it's all self-identified. They realize, oh, geez, it's just this. All right, no problem.
Yeah. Yep. No problem. So,
it has saved a ton of time, but then now I have customers that are just basically patiently waiting every month for it. And I get so much fan mail from, which I love. It's great. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And we're doing a section right now going over the 3 elements in a bag of the 10-10-10. Okay. Next month will be the conclusion of that. And then the list of stuff that we have monthly to go out from there. I've also created a customer handbook that basically covers as many topics as I have run across. And I keep jotting them down. And I've sent those out to my clients. Well, Jessica now is going to build that in a nice format on top of some other topics that I've jotted down and will jot down over the wintertime. So I'm really excited about that as well. She does.
Yeah.
Those pieces that she does are awesome.
Yeah. You actually had sent me that. That was actually at Entrepreneur Academy when you sent that to me, and I was reviewing it, and I'm like, this is amazing.
And that's
so I do appreciate that.
I'm always happy to share. I mean, the only way I've gotten where I am right now is from other people helping me and teach me. By all means, I'm not self-made. I'm made from others. That's the way we all need to grow in this business. And
was it the network is your net worth, right?
100%.
And that was an old version. I have so many more topics in there, and it's crazy. And I've said this a million times. If I had this passion for learning when I was in school, I'd be dangerous. Really,
Yeah, no kidding.
I love to learn now and research. And a lot of the times, just by doing these newsletters and that handbook, is it allows me to dive in deeper to a subject and actually learn it better for myself. Because sure, you're gonna put out there phosphorus, great, and you think you know what phosphorus is, and then you start typing. I'm like, geez, I gotta be dead on because people are gonna be reading this and using it as gospel. So then
Yeah.
you start going back to periodicals and reading and and make sure you have all the proper information. I find that fun. I enjoy that, which is kind of weird, but
And I feel like, and that's the positive with social media now. It's to learn with stuff like that.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think there's a little more negatives to it, but I mean, definitely
Depends
now,
on
like
what
I
you're
said,
looking at.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, like I couldn't imagine, trying to learn all what we know now, you know, 20 years, 30 years ago without the internet.
I agree.
It'd be really, really difficult.
Oh, you can Google a word today and boom,
Yeah,
5,000 articles comes up about it.
yeah,
So it's, I mean, heck, I always say this, I'm always learning every day. I learn something new. And I think it's important that we all learn things new and spread the wealth. Let
yeah,
everybody, gain from it.
yeah. And doing this alone, I mean, all I do, I mean, is listen to podcasts. It's,
yeah,
I have an hour,
you get no
I have an hour
break. So
drive to work.
you're out on the turf listening to them, or if you're in a police car listening to them.
Yeah, it's nonstop. I mean, music is like, I'm at the point now, and I had my fun when I was younger. I didn't know any better. It wasn't pushed. I feel like as if, since 2019, 2020, more like the entrepreneurship has been pushed more, and everyone's like, oh, people don't want to work. No, it's not that people don't want to work. People have found different ways to make money, and
Yeah.
they're working for themselves. You
Well,
know, eh,
I also think that, it's a different kind of lifestyle people want today too.
yes,
Where I hate, back when
Come
I
on.
was back in my day, back when I was a kid, it's you worked and you worked more hours and worked harder to make more money. I think today people will work 40 hours a week.
yeah,
And for the most part, I think people will give you a solid 40 hours, but they don't want $15 an hour. If you want me to work for you, they want a good chunk of change to do this. And it's I think it's I think we're going to have to, in the industry as a whole, we're going to have to realize that we have to pay people more money no matter what side of the business that you're on. Homeowners
yeah,
are going to have to pay more money to get it done. It's just inevitable because people are not working for $15 an hour or $20 an hour anymore. It's just not
no, it's
happening
it's not happening. It's not.
unless
Like,
you're offering full benefits, a retirement program, and things like that. It's the only way you're
Yeah,
going to get people that way.
and Vince, you mentioned that, there's you're noticing, and we are as well, that there's the younger generation are finding other creative ways to be an entrepreneur. And, I think we went through a very challenging time in the school system where, and I still think they teach this, and I'll put my tinfoil hat on for a second, but they basically teach kids how to be employees instead of employers.
yeah,
And now with this social media influencing and all that stuff, the young folks are getting a taste of what it's like to actually get a return on something that they're working really hard on and not just an
yeah,
hourly wage for it. And I find that encouraging, and people are like, oh, that's so crazy. But I've said this a million times, our immigrants, when they came over to this country, it was the backs of them that brought our country up to greatness. And we're kind of in a lull. And I think we're going to need the youth that are creative and want to work for that dollar hard to start bringing it back. And it's not going to be always by working for someone and punching a time clock.
yeah.
You
And
know,
now with go ahead, I'm sorry, God.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's just, and like that's the benefits of social media. I mean, there's the podcast, there's influences out there that are, yes, some are fake, some, I mean, some have, but there's some, there's legit ones out there, and it's, everyone's like, oh, because you have a business, oh, you must went to school, you learned business, you learned accounting, this that. I'm like, nope, nope. I hit 2 years, went to accounting college for criminal justice, and it was a waste of my money and my parents' money. Listen, I'm not knocking school. I mean, I'm not, you know what I mean? There are some professions out there that I believe you have to
100%.
have this school. And you know what I mean?
Agreed.
And I also believe maybe, because my wife will probably see this or hear this, so I don't want to get yelled at in the nicest way. I love her dearly. But, there's also a social aspect of
Yep.
going away to school and stuff like that, and where, yeah, I mean, I was being a little stubborn. I'm like, not like, but now I see it, you know what I mean? And where, you need to have that also too. It's like, so there's benefits, there's pluses and minuses, but now you're starting to see where, you have these influencers who are promoting, they have different academies out there where you're spending $2,000 with them and they give you, 2 months of their time and put stuff out there. And then you start piecing it there. I mean,
it's like youth soccer, it sounds like.
Yeah. But here's the thing, I take a piece of it from, this influencer, this, or, I've bought in different programs. I've bought, price increase letters from Paul, from Brian, it's just self-teaching business, and then accounting, I got that out of my hands real quick. I gave that to my accountant bookkeeper. I'm like, I'm not self-teaching that. No way. That was the best thing I ever did with the business.
It's amazing when you are engulfed in something, how eager you are to learn. So like I said, you've looked for the different resources to make yourself better in those areas. And it's having the stimulation to be on that path. And hopefully we can continue to get some of the younger generation into this green space, because it's a wonderful career. I mean, it's not going away. It really isn't. It's getting more technical. It's getting more scientific, which is great. But it's not going anywhere by any means.
Yeah.
I was watching or listening. I think I was listening to a podcast on the way home, or I don't know, my son might've been listening to a podcast, and it was talking about, the trades, and I'll consider lawn care a trade. Because it's, you don't have to go to a 4-year college to get it. You can learn from somebody the whole 9 yards. And, if you're not going to college for certain degrees, you can make more money in the private sector doing lawn care than you can for some of these, I'll call it, made up degrees out there. Don't get me wrong, not every degree is that way, but if we can figure out a way in our industry to create that image to say, not right away, but you give me your time, and in time, you will make 80 grand a year in lawn care. I don't know if that's even feasible, but you won't be going to college and having a $200,000 debt that you'll never be able to pay back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
I know it's a tough one, because I think in reality, we all want to pay people more money, right?
Yeah.
But there is a limit on what homeowners will pay. But we have to figure out that median. We really do.
Yeah, because I mean the median, and then you have newcomers coming into the industry. I'm like, well, I should say, how are you charging that? I know how they are charging it, because they have no insurance.
We all know.
They don't have the right license. Mm-hmm. They're guessing. And they got the site one, the homeowner program, and that's what they're running or something.
Right,
like that,
right.
And then, I mean, listen, we all did it. I started off cutting some yards from the neighbors' yards, and like most do, when I was younger. But no, definitely. Like I said, if you're not outsourcing information or not networking, you may not be comfortable talking to somebody, but you need to absorb something that's out there, because the faster you learn or admit that you don't know it all is when you actually start growing and going from there, because you'll never know it all. That's the worst attitude to have, I believe. I'd rather take all the information in, whether
100%.
You got guys like, oh, well, he's only 22 years old, so I'm going to listen to him. Well, he might have 400,000 hours of podcasts under his belt where he heard something, and I only have 1,000 hours.
Right.
It's just, you can learn literally from somebody.
Everybody has different experiences, and just because you've never seen what this person's been through or what this person has gone through, like on a lawn, doesn't mean it's never going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And just that it could be 10 years from now, and like in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my God, this is what that guy so-and-so was talking about. Now I know how to treat it.
Yeah.
So it's always great information out there, and just, listen. And if it's not relevant to you, put it in that back storage compartment of your brain. And one day
Yeah.
you might need it.
Yeah. And I guess the best way to explain that too was like we were talking before, is at Brian's Launchpreneur Academy. So, we all know Brian's, he's, obviously he's worked his way up, but to watch Brian from a 2-man crew to where he's at now, and the people that he brings in, that have, $100 million businesses and stuff like that. So you can even learn from those business, guys, gals. You can take a piece from them, because they all started when we were, they were all single solo owner operators at 1.2 to get to where they were. So everyone's got something to offer, I believe, that's out there. And I'm not saying that's why we were talking about, like, I believe that it's a great thing that Brian does out there for Michigan. Like I said, it's my 3rd year out there. So I'm going to continue to keep going as long as I can keep going. I mean, it's so informative and stuff like that. Like I was, obviously with Izzy being newborn, but my wife knew right off the bat, like, how important it was to be out there to like learn. And it's like it's the off-season boost for me to be like, all right, this is what I got to work on. I got to figure this out, and, so it was nice to be out there again. Cause I wasn't too sure, whether I should or shouldn't, but my wife, she's great. And she was like, no, she's like, what you take out of there is going to help us. So
Sure.
She's great with that.
So let's fast forward. So, your wife is promoting you to learn more, get smarter in the business. Where do you see yourself? Let's say you're 44 and 45 is coming around for your retirement. What is your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal is, so this is where I'm struggling, is would I love to hire somebody? Yes. To have more time. I'm comfortable with time, but now with having, the baby, I want to have more time.
Understand.
She's at Nanny's house while my wife's working right now too. She's down there working, and I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, when they coming home? You know what I mean? Like I want, I want more time, but then not grass cutting, not saying that anyone can just go cut grass, because that's also not true, but the chemicals, it's a little scarier to put somebody out there, even if you feel that you train them properly. Are they over applying, under applying, mixing wrong? I mean, it can happen. It has happened to companies.
Absolutely.
So, it's going back and forth, but we'll fast forward to next year. My dad is retiring from his job. So my dad's a workaholic too. He's still working 2 jobs at 60 something years old. He's awesome. A maniac with work. And, but I'm trying to get him to at least leave 1 job and then tell him like, hey, like, I'm trying to get him in, like, you can make more money working with me, or something like that. Like, let's work this out, get your time back, like, you're 60-something years old, it's time for you to slow it down. So but he doesn't retire till September next year. Okay. So obviously the bulk of the season's over at that point. So I would like to, like, at least minimally train him, say, on mosquitoes, weed control, and buy a little pickup truck and have him go forward with that and just kind of take that over and manage that. And then I can just keep concentrating on the lawn treatments. So we'll see how that goes. And then do I want to have, like I said, I want to go back to having employees, non-employees. I keep going back and forth, because then when I'm looking at, I'm like, you're saying 45 years, when I'm 45 years old, I mean, it's going to be here soon. It's a little over 7 years till it's there. So, but I'm looking at, like, if I can literally work 8 to 12, if I was just to keep doing the fertilizer business, I can just work 8 to 12 Monday through Friday, where I'm like, well, I can just double the business and still have a lot of time and be by myself. But ultimately, in the end, as what I feel sometimes as a business owner, it's like I like being out in the field, but as a business owner, you want to, not that you don't want to work, because I don't, but I don't want to be in the field maybe, because it's like I'd rather sit behind the computer a little bit, run, jobs, run estimates. It's I don't have a 100% answer on that necessarily.
I think the hardest part you're going to have, and I may be wrong with it, but it's when you are a sole entrepreneur, it's very hard to let go.
It is. It
And
is.
that
It's
that can make the difference of success or not sometimes. And
yeah.
having that first employee is extremely expensive, because stay small and keep it all. Well, now that you have an employee on there, paying them a good wage, benefits, workman's comp, all that stuff, it cuts down on the bottom line very, very quickly. But it is a necessary evil if you're going to increase the business. I talk with my bookkeeper and the financial planner, and my financial planner is like, Kevin, you need to hire someone. And this guy on the screen right here is telling me the same thing. I'm doing an absurd amount of turf myself. I just love it. It's crazy, but I'd have a hard time right now letting go, just because in our area, there's no one who wants to get into the industry. They really, really don't. And, back in the day when we were at a past company of a grass fertilization and a tick control company, we went and sold it to landscapers, because all the guys doing hardscape, doing tree installs, they're busting their hump. And we would sell them, say, listen, come on over to our side and you'll work hard, but not like that. And you're going to make more money.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, they come over like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm done at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not even tired. My knees aren't dirty. So there's that opportunity. But in our area, a lot of those guys have all just started their own. They're all, and they're doing great. I work with a ton of them. There isn't a lot of people out in the green market in our area. That's going to be a tough bridge for me.
Yeah. It's going to be tough for, like I said, I'm not knocking the new generation with work ethic or anything like that. It's just, again, they found different ways to make money, whether it be on the cell phones, on the computers, they could be home doing different things, or, what, honestly, I mean, I would say, hey, if you're working seven, you work 7 to 3, but, I hear different things where a lot of the newer generation, they don't want to go to work till like 11 o'clock.
Yep.
And work 11 to 5, 11 to 6, where they have their mornings and then they have their evenings. And I was listening to a podcast actually not too long ago. I don't know who's, but the guy, he was actually mentioning that. He's like, I actually have hired to accommodate that. He goes, I have guys who work 7 to 12, and then another guy comes in. He goes, I have another 2-3 guys that come in at 11:30, and then they finish off the day because they worked like an overnight job or something like that, and or something like that. It's just now I feel like with our industry, we're just going to be a little creative. And I think that's one of the steps to do it.
I agree. Flexibility is something that probably needs to happen. I mean, there's college kids out there who may want a part-time job and only they might have 2 morning classes every day. And then they'll work from 12 to 5 or whatever it might be. So,
and that's exactly what I did back in the day with Heartland when I was going to school too. And I get off, I mean, we did the co-op program when I was a senior in high school. And I remember running to his class. I'm like, hey, you got the list? I'd leave 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning with the list. I go to his house, pick up the box truck, and we'd go, from like 11:30 till, 5 o'clock in the evening.
I think the problem with like the college, like part-time in this industry is like, do we want to take the time to train somebody who's only going to be part-time, get them good, and then in a year they go become a part-timer at Wawa, so it's a tough one. I think we definitely would like more career-oriented people to come into the industry. I think the opportunity is there. It's just, it doesn't happen right away. You have to show your colors first, and then maybe that opportunity can be there with advancement. So I don't know how we do it. I mean, we've talked about it so many times on this podcast about the labor issue, or let's say the production issue we might have in the lawn care industry or turf management industry. And how do we as a whole take it to the next level to get people who want to stay with a company, I don't know if life is the right answer or right term, but if we can get someone to stay 10 years and be productive, it would be a great thing, right? Hey, maybe it can be life, but how do we get those individuals into this industry? I mean, you can't go promote it in high school. I don't think the high schools will let you do it.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some kind of job fair or something that we can promote this industry to get people doing it, because as we all know, the industry is becoming more sustainable. It's becoming more, organic based or even totally organic. And I think that should be a selling point to the younger generation. That our products that we use are not, harsh like they were 20 years ago, let's say. And I don't know. I wish somebody out there with a better brain than all of us maybe can come up with that answer. I don't know who, I don't know how we get there, but we need to get there.
Yeah, I think it would be more on our end. Like a job fair would be great, but you only have X amount of time
Yeah.
to promote that. And honestly, it would take a lot of money for say a single owner operator to do something like a PowerPoint presentation. But for instance, like Mike Andes and all those, a couple of those guys, they're making software to incentivize their employees. And I think that's a big thing too, because what happens is, I mean, we've all fell victim to it. I mean, I used to hand out the invoices, back in the day, and I'm like, really? I'm like $100, and I'm like, I'm only getting freaking paid $10 an hour. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, he's making so much money, but I didn't know workman's comp. I didn't know this. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now I know. I understand it.
Yep.
So, I keep hearing about different programs. Granted, I don't know how it worked so much for turf, but these guys with like hardscape projects, they have it. Okay, well, they're using some big software companies out there to know that, okay, 40 hours, we have a $80,000 project. That's what we're having out. But hey, guys, if it gets done within 30 hours, we have now gained, say, 10% extra in profit. We get that, you get an extra 1% of that profit margin.
Right.
So now you get something like that where these guys can make an extra $200-300 a week. Again, I don't want to say it's like baiting them, but it's, you're giving them and incentivizing them, because once I think some employees, once they start seeing the invoices or the bills, or how much you're charging, they're like, they think they should have all of that too, because
Agreed.
they don't understand what's behind us. And then they get, you know what? Well, screw this. I know how to do this. I'm just gonna do it on my own. But they don't realize all the paperwork, the phone calls, the chemical tracking, for us. Like, there's just so much behind the scenes that they don't see. And so they go off on their own. And unfortunately, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but they fail because they don't realize on how much behind the scenes work is out there. Between getting your contractor's license, making sure your sales, because once you hit that certain number, per month in sales tax or your federal tax, the government wants their fair, and they don't want to wait. They don't want to wait.
Yeah. No doubt.
It's depressing.
Yeah. And it's, for instance, there's some new federal thing coming out for the new year. I haven't listened to it yet, but it's on John
LLC?
Pajak.
I saw that today.
Yeah.
I read about it today. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, I didn't get to listen to that podcast, but I heard it. If you don't, apparently it's a piece of paper or two for something with beneficiaries, something for the business. If you don't fill that out, it's a $500 fine a day.
So what little bit I know about it is, anyone that has created an LLC, I'll say, just because I know exactly, within 2 years, you have to file immediately by January 1. If you started your LLC and incorporated earlier than that, you have 1 more year grace period. And what they're trying to do is basically try to eliminate some shell games. So they want
to, right?
I'm sorry?
It's money laundering or something like that, right? They're trying to avoid or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they should look at the main house before they start looking at us.
Yeah.
I'm going to be quiet on that. But I mean, in a way, kudos to them that they're trying to match all this up, because I mean, if you talk to any good accountant, the more LLCs you have out there, all leading back to a single trust, can be very, very creative. I mean, everybody that has a higher income does that. Let's say Taylor Swift, she has houses all over the place, and those are liabilities that she needs to lose money to help reduce some of the taxes she has to pay. Well, LLCs will do the same thing when you have multiple LLCs that you can invest in, and then that one shell game that isn't doing as well takes the brunt and takes a hit, and that comes down, yada, yada, yada. So they're just trying to, and I can't believe I'm almost on their side. I'm not saying that.
But I'm a little dumbfounded right now, buddy.
No, I'm not saying it's worth it, but that's what they're doing. I'm not saying that that's the right thing that they should be doing, but if you have an LLC, you have to file now, not just with your state, but you have to file federally to prove that your LLC is a legit LLC and it's not a shell game. I think that's the short and skinny of it.
Yeah.
I mean, because we know there's people out there that, there's a lot of loopholes, legal loopholes out there. I mean, I know a guy who has a rental business that he runs too, and he rents out his mowers to his own company.
Oh,
I'm like, that's just a lot of paperwork and trying to do all that. I'm like, that's just a lot.
That's a mess.
So I don't call them loopholes. I call them basically tax codes, because that's what they are. They're created by the people that are sitting in all these offices that we vote in for some weird reason. We put these morons in office. And
sorry, that was the wrong word. Loophole was definitely a wrong word. I'm sorry.
No, but I mean, they just created it. It's a legal tax code that you can use. Now, back to the rental part of it, when I was with a past company, we did that. We had a couple different firms that all our vehicles were a separate company that would rent to our landscaping company. And that was basically in case someone hit and killed somebody, the liability of those trucks would not affect the other part of the business. And we had 4 or 5 businesses in that. Was a multi-million-dollar business and done for a different way. Sure. Did it have some tax savings and ramifications? I'm sure, but it was more of a protection shell game.
And it's very smart.
Right. That's what they are. But again, like you said, when there's people that are just renting within their company, well, if they can get away with it and they want to do the homework for it, I mean, you legally can do it, but it is a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But I mean, again, like you said, they put it in place, and and people think, oh, just because you have a business. I mean, you work hard. The harder you work, the more you're going to earn.
So a couple pieces of advice that I always tell people: one is a CRM system, what you're talking about, and two, what you're doing is having a tax person or a financial planner to help with your business, because the tax codes change all the time.
Yep.
They're a great resource and sounding board, especially if you're one-off like I am and Vince is and all these others, that they can help you make decisions and guide you in the proper way to help save your money and pay the right ways, and the reminders of quarterlies are due and all that stuff. That's just another tool I think that's very well invested to spend the money on. Once you get to a certain level, it helps a lot.
I mean, I'm not gonna say I strongly disagree with you on that one. I want to say, not to the point, I would say almost just start right away, honestly, because a lot of people don't understand like what the different taxes stuff are, or a lot of people don't know what can or can't be write-offs. And just to pay my accountant and the bookkeeper, it's just, yes, I'm spending money, but I'm probably saving more money in the end by not making dumb mistakes. Like I said, I got a phone call or a text message about a week and a half ago. You got to spend money. Make sure
Isn't
you get
that crazy?
done.
Doug and I have been talking about this. That's crazy.
Like I said, it's, and it's, and what's cool with it a lot. And again, I don't want to get off in like investment and stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about a SEP IRA till I had them. What I mean? I'm thinking my police pension, and you want to talk about, a regular IRA, but also too, granted, I was self-taught on this one to do the backdoor Roth,
right.
Where it's illegal, it's legal, but people don't know that. I was self-taught that one, I will say, but I had no clue about a SEP IRA, that if I take that money in, that will actually help me out with my taxes on the business in the end. But the IRS, they make sure that money is in that account by that date. I know that for a fact. They will be on you, real quick with that.
mean, every year I take, because I'm only allowed to put so much money into my retirement, by law. And I have to, at the end, put it into an HSA account, a health savings account. So when I am older and, need more money for medical bills and whatnot, it's there.
Yeah.
So the last couple months of the year, I have to, so they take less, because they end up taking less taxes out. And then I owe more taxes at the end of the year if I don't do this. So it's, I hate the way the tax laws are. You got to tell them how much money to take out. That's why people get in trouble. I mean, because they don't know.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were saying before, Kevin. Like, I think the faster you get hooked up with the bookkeeper, the accountant, because that's another thing that I self-taught on the HSA, but for instance, I won't get benefits. My township doesn't offer benefits after retirement. So
really,
my account, yeah. So unfortunately, we don't.
Wow.
We do get a reduced benefit plan. So that will definitely be beneficial. And it'll be the same benefits, just, I'll still have to pay, but it's going to be, it's not going to be all the way up here. But then I found out too, because that's why I talked to my bookkeeper and my accountant. I'm like, can I still do HSA to make sure everything's in line? And they say, yep.
As long as you have a high deductible insurance plan, you can contribute to an HSA. So as a family, it's 7,000. As an individual, I think it's 65 or six grand or something like that. But just something that I've found out is because my wife has a plan and it is an HSA, her employer, who is with the town, kicks back a part into that. So we can't, as a whole, between the two of them, you can't hit that. You can only hit that max. You can't go and say, oh, she can max this one out and I can max that one out because we're in a family plan. So that's where you need an advisor to make those really good calls. And my Sheila Chaplin does. I don't make those calls. She emails me, this is what you're doing. This is where you're sending the money. This is how much you're sending. I'm like, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Now with us, we're, granted, like I said, I mean, you can just have a push spreader, a backpack sprayer, and a truck. You know what I mean? Like, I'm at to the point where I'm like, so I have 2 permagreens. I did buy another stand-on aerator to try and help with the taxes this year, because I'm like, if one goes down, I saw the other one. So I'm sitting with 2 permagreens. One's brand new from last year. Another Xmark aerator, brand new this year. So I'm at the point where, I'm still getting told you might want to look into a purchase, but I'm also at the point now too, where I'm like, granted, would I like a new box truck? Yes. But I bought a $9,000 box truck off a guy that, it was used for linen from a hospital to bring to the dry cleaning with only 20,000 miles, so 2001.
Wow.
It has 35,000.
Not even broken in yet.
Yeah. So why am I going to go out and buy a, great. I don't know, future setup. I don't know. Box truck stay with. I'm still teetering with some different ideas.
Especially the interest rates on vehicles today. I heard like a commercial vehicle. Now I heard this today that if you have great credit, it's 10%.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah. My friends over at Coastal, they actually canceled their orders for the cab overs on the Chevys. They were doing Chevys. All said and done, priced out the way they wanted it done, it was like 80 grand. And they were like, it's over $1,000 a month for a payment. They're like, no, they wind up actually putting an F-250 in the fleet. And we're like, we just put the carrier on there and just go from there.
Well, I tend to think I know why, more and more people are going the liquid route as well, is because of that reason. You can just have a pickup truck and have a couple 100-gallon tank on it, like an F-250 with a 200-gallon tank, like one of those low profile tanks.
Yep.
And then you can fill up your machine as you go. So I can understand why more and more people are going liquid. Because it can be done, number one, and number two, it's you don't have to have the big piece of equipment and pay 10. I almost fell out of my chair when the guy told me that today. I'm like, 10%? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a shame.
Yeah. So now, I would have a question for you guys then. So could you guys let us know more? I guess another thing too with the spraying, would it be, say your machine, your sprayer's down, right? Like for me, like for instance, like going to one of the liquid machines, for instance, like it would have to be, obviously it would have to be a 36 to go with that route. But if you're doing hose and reel, that machine goes down for the day. You don't have product.
Well, you could always have
It's
this.
like,
You could always have the setup on that spray tank to the fact where you can spray out of that spray tank as well. So if that happened, I mean, I will say, like, these machines like Steel Green, you need a part, it'll be there the next day or in 2 days, depending on when it's ordered. And most of the time it's very simple fixes and whatnot. But you could always get one of those low profile tanks. You can always have the hose reel on there, regardless. So if you had to spray by hand one day, you have to spray by hand one day.
yeah.
And if your tank went down, I mean, really, there's not much wrong with them. If you do regular maintenance, and what regular maintenance is, at least up in my area, we've always done them. Their diaphragm pumps is replace the diaphragms every winter.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you've deadheaded the pump and pressure and blown it back through the diaphragms, they're almost bulletproof. They really are.
Yeah.
Just make sure you check the oil.
When you're doing lawns, you're running such a low pressure. The one that I was running for tick spraying, we were basically using a tree gun into the woods, yada, yada, yada. You're running 120 PSI. When a lawn gun, you're down to almost nothing. So there's no tax on the pump really itself if you're treating lawns.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have enough knowledge, or I really haven't outsourced a lot of information on something like that. I was just curious with that.
If you wanted to learn more about that, I mean, Chris Stout runs all liquid. That would be one guy you could just ask him, say, hey, what's the longevity on a pump? What do you see with issues of repair during the season? How long does it take? I mean, I do my diaphragms myself. It takes me probably 2-3 hours. So if you did go down, I mean, you would be down for the day, but you could be back up by the next day. And I have a set of diaphragms in stock all times.
Yeah. All right.
But again, I think it's a slow progression. I don't think, I'd hate to push anyone in any direction if they're not comfortable with it. I think they just need to slowly explore what's going to work for them. Your size lawns, I mean, hose and reel is going to be the winner.
I agree.
I agree too.
Like you could get some property done with a hose.
You'd be surprised how much faster for those size lawns, how much faster it is with just a hose and a reel.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm teetering with that idea too, is like, getting, a tank and a hose and reel, and, maybe not like a 200-gallon one, but like if I get the 100 and like just experiment with the idea of it, and then the smaller ones, and I know it's gonna be in and out and not open up the back door, pulling the ramp down, and, just pull that hose and just go.
It's, I've had quite a few calls this year from people who wanted my opinion, or even I think Kevin's had a few calls about opinions. I think we probably all have. And it's, when you're dealing with 7,000 square foot lawns and that's your average, it's kind of one of those deals like, talk to somebody else who's just a sprayer like Chris or, some of the other guys out there. And they'll tell you flat out, it's like, this is how we do it. We're productive. This is, we make money doing it. And I think you'll find that it's probably going to be productive for yourself and a lot easier for yourself to do it that way. But I also will never tell you no to a machine either. So I think the machines today are awesome. But like you said, pulling it off a trailer, putting it back on the trailer, the whole 9 yards, it can be a little cumbersome here and there. So.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I bought, special racks, from Wow ramps for the box truck, and open up that back door, backing it down, up, down. And, it's nice because it's like a storage unit for me. I can keep everything in there.
Set it, forget it. Stays out.
Exactly. Yep. It's off to the side. Luckily I have a nice size property to be able to store all that stuff here and then in the shed too. So that's
right.
That's a plus with the box truck too, as well, like that kind of setup. But then again, maybe like an F-250, F-350, something, because then that's wrapped, and it's advertising 24/7, driving out to ShopRite, later to go get dinner.
Right.
So there's stuff to weigh out,
I mean,
absolutely.
You're not cooking tonight?
I want to run out after this and go shop ready. Yeah, we'll definitely be cooking tonight.
All right.
I got
so,
some
yeah.
pulled pork to eat.
Yes, sir. So we're going to start wrapping this up because, well, you got a new baby you got to go see.
Yep, 100%.
And that's more important than talking about this because we can do a part 2 anytime you want. So,
Oh, absolutely.
now we definitely appreciate you coming on, Vince.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me, and obviously look forward to keeping linked up with you guys, and
Absolutely.
first keep doing what you guys are doing, because like I said, I was telling Doug, I was like, I something came up with you guys. I forget how it just, if something popped up on social media, I don't remember how, and it was just like, literally, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, there's still somewhere. I'm like, I listened to one of them, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, there's a ton of episodes before this, and I'm like, nobody's, and not trying to ass kiss, but nobody's putting content out there like you guys are with the lawn care stuff, as and
We appreciate that.
Yep.
there's some out there, but it's, I can say honestly, I've been telling other, my other friends, like, I'm like, you guys gotta listen to these two guys.
And all we want to do,
what you guys are doing, and I appreciate it, honestly, because
Thank you. Appreciate it.
like, I'm learning a lot. Like I said, I mean, I'm learning more about surfactants now. Where I'm like, I didn't know that. And I use Solero, but I've learned a lot. From just listening to you guys about the Solero and stuff like that. I'm like, wow. I'm like,
It's a great product with a
Yeah, I'm
surfactant. It's that
Yeah.
much better.
I'm like, there's a lot. There's, like I said, there's a lot to learn, and it's obviously, this industry is just changing very fast.
And it's going to continue that way.
Yeah, and like I said, to have you guys as a resource out there to explain it and break it down, and
appreciate
my
it.
hour drive.
we're not the encyclopedia. What we want to do is bring your experience, your story, everyone else's on. It just doesn't want to be Doug and I, so that we can learn from you and everyone else. Someone's going to grab stuff from you, that's for sure. I mean, there's no question about it. That's how the learning continues, and the cog keeps spinning, because we've already said all we can say. I mean, we're not that we're running out, but they don't want to listen to the same topics over and over. But it's having guests on the program each week that just brings a different perspective that we all learn from different parts of the country. I mean, that's the cool stuff. That's what I love.
No, absolutely.
Yep.
Awesome. Keeping it green down at Jersey Shore.
Yes.
Orchid River.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
With the new baby, 2 months old. Congratulations again.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your service for the law enforcement. Truly. I mean,
I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Doug and I are huge proponents of our
law
responders,
military, first responders, everybody.
Tell you what, this windstorm that we're all talking about, the first thing I noticed, and it's never done it before, my flag, which is lit at all times. I am a proper flag bearer.
You and me both.
The wind got it, man. That was heartbreaking. I mean, the first thing I did is get that thing out of the weather, and time to put a new one up tomorrow because of the storm. But yes, we appreciate
down here
all of our first responders, as well as all of our entrepreneurs and business people. Again, a shout out to Creative Content by Jessica, your newsletter going out. She's been texting me right now because we have another promo to release on Instagram, so she's bugging me. It's got to get out there. She's got some cool stuff lined up for us.
Awesome.
Yeah, look forward to it. We are on YouTube now, thanks to Jessica. So what you are listening to here, you can also watch and listen to on YouTube. Not saying that you want to look at our faces, but another just platform that people don't have Spotify that they can listen to our programs. With that said, gentlemen, have a great week. And Vince, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and I can't wait to meet you in person.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you. See you.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right, gentlemen, you go see that little baby. Enjoy your dinner after you get done with.
I can't believe she's sleeping through the night already.
Wow. Oh my God. Like I said, it's wild. I mean, my wife, she's a therapist, so she does online. So she works private practice and works for a company. So she only went back private practice. So she sees like 6 clients throughout the week. So she's down at her mom's, down 10 minutes down the road. She's got her last client at 7. So she'll be home a little after 7, or 6 to 7, and then be home a little after 7. So, but I like I said, 9 to 4, because I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for the police job, and then I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning on my days, that I work the business or whatever. So it just works out. I'm like, this is great. She gets to sleep till 8 o'clock because I do the feeding at 4. As long as she has enough breast milk, we're good to go. I'm like, you can sleep, put her down. I go to the gym, do my thing, and that's it.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it works out well.
All right. Well, you enjoy your first Christmas with that gem. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. You guys have a good holiday. Have a good New Year. If I don't talk to you, Doug, I'll definitely be talking to you obviously before
right.
New Year. I guess
And just one thing on just so I didn't want to say it on the air, but another way to do it is I purchase early order from Doug to save on taxes as well.
Yes, no, exactly. That's what I'm doing too. I got the bill. I got to fill out the billing information and the credit card stuff. So it's just the addition, even though it's a small addition, 450 square feet, but you would think you're building a mansion because I didn't realize how much what kind of molding do you want? Do you want the toe kick? Do you want I'm like, just whatever. Just make it look nice.
I understand. Totally.
We wish you well with that project.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
See you.
Good night, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.